I think it's appropriate that we share our beverage choices.
I'm more of a Dr. Pepper Zero person, honestly.
And it was staring me right in the face. I saw it at the store, and I was
didn't
like,
know that was a thing.
Maybe he's a Dr. Pepper Zero guy. I could be really walking a fine line here.
But I've always been Dr. Pepper. In fact, myself and Commissioner Ballard probably drink about 50% of the Dr. Pepper in Manatee County.
It's like the Forrest Gump must have had me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
What's the sugar type for zero versus diet?
I think it's phenylalanine or aspartame. No, because aspartame, I think, is
the diet.
Hold on. It's phenyltronics and, phenylalanine for diet Dr. Pepper. For zero, I'm not sure. That's a good question.
That's what I care about.
The difference is the zero is supposed, just like Coke Zero, is supposed to taste like a close approximation of the regular.
It's not like sucralose. That's still sugar-based. There's still calories there, right?
Sucrose
you could
is
say whatever you want.
sugar.
We've already lost all the listeners.
Nothing better than high fructose corn syrup
and
caramel coloring in the full-flavored regular Dr. Pepper.
I got to drink it before Maha bans it.
That's right. Well, it's election day in America, and who better to have on election day that we record this on than our chair, George Kruse. Welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, and no musical intro, no bio needed. This is really kind of a continuation of the conversation that we had. Episode 5, it's hard to believe we're on.
Episode 5?
It was episode 5,
okay.
Yeah, back in June. So the weather was a little bit hotter. I'm sure as a runner, you can appreciate the cooling temperatures a little bit.
Yeah. Very nice.
Going to be a part of Run Manatee, I'm assuming?
I've already signed up for the whole 2026 season.
You did? Great.
I did.
So the final one is coming up, Rye Preserve, which is your neck of the woods.
Is end of November, weekend before Thanksgiving, is Rye Preserve on that Saturday morning.
I will be there as well.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Unless I'm out of town, but I think I'll be there.
You guys are overachievers.
A 5K is not overachieving.
It's not?
No.
Oh. In November, it's not. In June, no? Okay. Maybe I just need to get off my duff and do something.
You can walk.
Yeah, I could walk. Actually, they still have openings for the fun run for November. Everything else is
it's mainly for kids, but I think you can compete.
I might be in a class more suited to my.
Awesome. Well, one thing that's been happening this month that I want to bring everybody up to speed on and talk to you about is our 2026 state legislative priorities. So we were in Tallahassee, what was it, beginning of October?
About 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that trip and, what you took out of that trip and what was our purpose there.
Sure. Well, we go up to Tallahassee usually at least once, but sometimes 2, 3, one time 4 times to get Manatee County's priorities in front of the right people. And there's different ways you can do that. The last few years, we've started a practice of trying to get up during committee weeks. And for people who don't really follow Tallahassee, there's 2 main times of the session. There's committee weeks, which are 6 different weeks where just the committees meet. That's where you're going to start seeing the bills get filed in their initial draft form. And the committees go through them. Most bills typically have to go through 3 committees so they can be commented upon and modified and amended accordingly before they start hitting the House floor and the Senate floor. We started liking going during committee weeks because if your committee's not meeting and you're a representative or a senator, you're just up there twiddling your thumbs. There's more free time during committee weeks. So typically you have an opportunity to get in front of somebody and sit there for 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, because they've just got that time to kill. There's less traffic going through the hallways. During regular session, which is in theory, 60 days, this year starting, I believe, January 13th, it's very hectic up there. People are constantly flowing in and out of offices. If you're lucky to get a meeting, your meeting is for 10, 15 minutes. They're asking you just to speed date through everybody. So we prefer going up during committee weeks.
It's strategy-based. Yeah.
Correct. It just gives you more time to have a broader dialogue with people early on where they have got the time to really listen and ask follow-up questions so you can get more out of it. This year, we went a little earlier than we like to because we didn't even have our priorities finalized yet, or they were finalized, but they weren't voted on. But this year, we had a unique situation where our state senator, Senator Jim Boyd, was going through his president designation ceremony, where he was being set up and voted on to be the Senate president for the 27 and 28 sessions after Senator Ben Albritton's done being president. So we went up a little early. A handful of us went up, some of the commissioners, some of the staff, for that purpose. But while we're up there, we wanted to make best use of it. So in the span of 3 days,
we had 17 meetings.
17 joint meetings. And then I had a couple of meetings for some animal welfare bills and some other things. Plus had a lot of bump into kind of meetings, informal meetings. I know yourself, Stephanie, some of staff met with the Doge committee to talk about the Doge. We had also met with Florida Association of Counties while we're up there. So it was way more productive, actually, than I expected it to be, considering how crammed it was into 3 days. So.
Well, you challenged us to make it count, because the one thing that's really frustrating about planning those is everything comes together last minute, much shorter notice than I would like. We know the intention, we kind of have slots, but literally Friday at 5 p.m. the weekend before is when I'm sending out the schedule and confirming meetings. And even on Monday, we were still getting meetings.
That's not unique, though. That's how it always is, because committee schedules don't come out till Friday, and nobody can commit to a meeting until they know when their committees are or are not meeting. So that's just a product of going up to Tallahassee, is you end up with these opportunities that may pop up in 15 minutes, or you may have meetings like we had that get canceled, or you get shuffled off to their staff. It is what it is. The same thing happens in D.C., but D.C. is not on a compressed 60-day schedule.
Right.
So it's a little more prevalent in Tallahassee. But the great thing is Tallahassee is super small. Nothing's more than a few blocks from the Capitol. So even if you're not meeting with somebody formally, there's a pretty good chance you're going to bump into them informally. And that's going to still allow you, even if it's standing on a sidewalk or standing outside of a restaurant, to have an opportunity to point things out if you're prepared. If you know this person is someone who cares about animals, so let me get that out. This person understands advisory boards. Let me talk about this library advisory board. This person understands our port. Let's talk. If you pre-plan, you can make meetings happen even if they're not on your calendar.
Yeah, so who are you actually getting in front of? Because you said, you want to get in front of the right people. So for the sake of our citizens, who exactly are you trying to get time in front of?
Sure. It depends on the time we go up. Again, we were just up for committee weeks, and we'll be up again. Some of us will be up again end of January for Florida Association of County Legislative Days. I'm on the leadership team this year. I'm a chair of the Health, Safety, and Justice Board. And then we'll be up there in February for our Manatee Days. It's our first Manatee Days. So each of those have a unique different time of who we're going to focus on. So this time up, again, because we hadn't voted on the appropriations and that, even though they were finalized, we still want to make sure we're being respectful of a board vote. So we didn't want to overly talk about those. We focus more on macro level issues that concern the citizens of Manatee County. One of which being the future of property taxes and revenue streams, and the other being Senate Bill 180 and potential changes we'd like to see. Those
More
were two of the bigger
policy-based kind of, yeah.
So those were two of the bigger issues that we focused on. And then some of the things that we knew were coming up on local bills, like the Library Advisory Board, which was Commissioner Ballard's initiative, and she was with us. So she spoke about that with primarily our local delegation, because they'd be the ones running it. So because we were talking macro, it was a broader range of people we could meet with. So we had our lobbyists and our staff reach out to everybody, bipartisan, on the President's Select Committee on Property Taxes for the House of Representatives. And I think we met with about half of them, a pretty large number of people, to get our points across on here's what we're spending money on. Here's our MSO and public safety budget. Here's constitutional officer budget. Here's school board budget. Here's the impacts this will have. Senate Bill 180, we tried to target that a little more towards people who were involved in the original bills on the House side and the Senate side, to propose some tweaks and lines specifically to the original bill that we felt could be modified to allow for the proper growth management at the local level. So once we get into the real session, we start focusing more on the appropriation side. So then we're asking for the chair of appropriations and the budget committees and people who have those says, or if there are bills that are in the works that we feel are important to the citizens of Manatee County, we'll try to get in front of the sponsors of those bills to make our suggestions about tweaks, or in some cases just go into lend our support for a bill if we believe it's a positive bill.
So talk a little bit about your strategy. I think it would be really helpful for people to know, because we didn't just meet with one side, like you're saying. You wanted to meet with members of both sides and across the county. So not just delegation members, but people who are in the property tax committee outside of our area. So why is that important to both reach across the aisle as well as talk to people who aren't necessarily anywhere near Manatee County?
Look, I love our delegation, but I talk to our delegation all the time. I don't need to go to Tallahassee to meet with them. We like to meet with them while we're up there. It's good, constructive meetings while we're up there. But we have pretty regular dialogue here. The people I do not have dialogue with on a regular basis are people from the Panhandle, and people from South Florida. Those are people I don't bump into at a ribbon cutting or can't call on a cell phone at a spur of a moment to talk about a bill. So that's why I want to be able to talk to those people in terms of not our delegation, because at the end of the day, they have to approve our budget appropriations. Some of them are chairs and sub-chairs or vice chairs of important boards where things are going to come through, or committees that we want to have a say in their views. From a bipartisan standpoint, again, I understand Tallahassee is a supermajority on both sides. Both chambers are supermajority. So the Democrat side does not have a full say in it. That doesn't mean they're not trying to propose sensible bills or sensible amendments. It's not to say they still don't have a vote. People still prefer a unanimous vote to not a unanimous vote. They don't want to keep voting on party lines. That's not the best narrative in the long run, to look like you're cramming things through, because when you cram things through, now you take ownership of it.
Sure.
Nobody wants to take ownership of anything. Like, look at Senate Bill 180.
Yeah.
If Senate Bill 180 was a party line vote, this place would be a different thing than 139 to 1, where they can point to, hey, both sides agreed to this. So we wanted to meet with everybody on both sides of the aisle on the tax bill, because they're out there talking to their citizens as well. And at the end of the day, the legislature can't do anything about our property taxes. At least not they can't do anything that that they're proposing to do. It's got to go on a ballot in November 2026. So there's going to be a big window of time where the narrative is going to be getting pushed out in both directions, just like you see with every constitutional ballot initiative in the state of Florida. And both sides of the aisle are going to be pushing that narrative. Yeah. So the more people we could talk to and explain, this is how it'll directly impact the citizens of Manatee County, this is how it'll impact the fiscally constrained counties up near the Panhandle, then that's just one more person who can push out a narrative. So in situations like this, I think this is a fairly nonpartisan type issue. It's a preference of state control versus local control. Quality of life versus cost of living. So, we wanted to make sure we spoke to as many people as we could while we had the time up there.
So on property tax, a lot's happened even in the 3-4 weeks since we've been to Tallahassee. Kind of bring people up to speed. What are we advocating for in and we'll talk about it, maybe our legislative priorities next, but it's in here in terms of, like, we're talking about what would Manatee County say to our delegation when it comes to bills related to property tax?
We are not advocating for anything. This is an individual preference type thing. Manatee County as a board has not staked a position on property taxes. I have, but the board as a whole has not, and I am speaking on behalf of myself, not a chairman. We have advocated for things that tangentially relate to property taxes that go along kind of with my views, such as indexing fuel taxes. What we have right now is we have a situation in Florida where local governments have been restricted on every form of revenue stream other than property taxes. We're restricted on what we can spend tourist development taxes on, or how much we can collect. We're restricted on how much sales tax we could charge. It's a max 1% for us. We have 2 half-cent taxes, one for school, one for IST, for infrastructure. We can't put a ballot initiative for more in exchange for lower taxes. We have restrictions on fuel tax. Our fuel tax has not been indexed to inflation. It has not changed in recent memory. The state's is. The state keeps getting more and more money from it. Meanwhile, we've got EVs, the electrical vehicles, that pay no fuel tax, but they're utilizing our infrastructure right now. So we as a board have, in fact, advocated for flexibility in revenue streams that could, in theory, offset property taxes, whether it be the fuel tax, the tourist development tax. Those we have as a board advocate. So I could speak on behalf of the board saying we did vote on that. But in terms of people's views of cutting property taxes, eliminating property taxes, retaining, we have not voted as a board. I've been pretty public statewide through my Substack, through conversations, through radio shows I've been on, that I believe cutting property taxes entirely is bad fiscal policy. At the end of the day, it's going to be a big handout to people who are building homes and selling homes, and it's going to be a big turnover of control of local government up to the state level.
What does that look like, though? If we do eliminate property taxes, who's going to be primarily affected by that?
We don't know.
Okay.
Because we don't know the other side of the ledger. They keep saying cut property taxes, but
there's no solution yet as to...
There's some people who make some argument that if you slash property taxes, and one of the proposals is to zero, that all local governments can commensurately lower their expenses to balance it out. Well, you can't lower expenses to zero. So right there, that disproves that. Their argument that this is effectively people paying rent on their homes to government, so we need to eliminate it, but not eliminate school taxes, and not eliminate CDDs, and not eliminate fire districts, and not eliminate public safety and sheriffs. You're still going to be sending a check.
That's right.
So now it's not a matter of eliminating rent, it's how much of it. So I don't know what it's going to look like, because nobody is willing to step up at the state level and say, if we cut this, we're going to raise this. Or if we cut this,
sales tax. Right.
No conversation about whatsoever. So it's hard to say what that's going to look like. And they've also decided at this stage, instead of having one voice of a proposal, the House has 8 official positions, 8 different bills. Plus, there's some informal bills that aren't, quote, you're not going to see my hands, quote unquote, House approved. They didn't go through the Speaker's office. There was individual members passing additional proposals. And then the Senate has put, I think, 4 at least officially. So there's a lot of proposals out there that span the gamut of options. So
how refined would they have to be in okay, so we're going to increase this. And I've heard like them wanting to have it as a referendum next November, correct?
It will. 2026? Something will be on the ballot in 26. There's no way they're not going to let it. But they're not. Here's the key. Usually when a ballot initiative goes on, it's 2 bills. The first one is the joint resolution that says we're putting this on the ballot for everyone to vote on. Then there's a second implementing bill, which doesn't take effect. It's sitting there in the wings that says it's kind of like an if-then formula. It says if you approve this ballot initiative, then this implementing bill comes into effect, and it explains to you how we're going to enact what you just did. None of these tax bills, at least on the House side, have an implementing bill. Their proposal was, let's just have people vote on it, and then after they vote on it, we realize what we broke. Then we'll come back in the 27 session, and we'll sit up there in Tallahassee and figure out how to make this work. Meanwhile, the clock started because you're already adjusting your taxes as of January 1st. So now you got 60 days to race against the clock up in Tallahassee to figure out how you're going to implement what you just broke. And meanwhile, local governments can't do anything because we don't know what it's going to look like on the back end.
Right. I thought it was really helpful the way I heard you explain your own property tax bill, because I don't think a lot of people know just how Manatee County is one of the least reliant on property taxes.
8th. We're the 8th. The
right.
the House of Representatives in Tallahassee, their own analysis said that Manatee County is the 8th best in terms of least reliant on property taxes to fund government. Meaning we come up with other sources. Only, I think it was 21% of all of our expenditures come from property taxes. Only 7 other counties in the entire state of Florida do it with less property taxes than us. Meaning we find grants, we find appropriations, we better utilize our tourist development taxes, our sales taxes, and other revenue streams outside of property taxes.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So any predictions for property tax?
Nope. Not a chance. I have no prediction whatsoever.
I had to ask. So let's talk about something also equally light and airy, Senate Bill 180.
Oh, man.
So this is something that's in our legislative priorities, and I know it's something you have definitely been very vocal on. But talk to us about those conversations in Tallahassee about how we approach Senate Bill 180 from a Manatee County's perspective.
Sure. Senate Bill 180 has had a disproportionate effect on Manatee County. There's a few counties, ourselves, Orange County, a few others that really had some meaningful, significant priorities in the works that got stayed by Senate Bill 180. Orange County with their Vision 2050 comp plan that they spent 8 years working on, and their rural boundary, which was on the 24 ballot and passed with 73% of the vote, both of which got stayed because of this. Manatee County with our wetland buffers that we were finalizing the final vote to put them back to 50 feet where they should have been. The policy 2128 to eliminate any thoughts or chance of building east of the FDAB, and our impact fees, which have been massively underfunded and undercollected for a decade now. And that's on top of the comp plan that we were also working on, which is sitting on a shelf in Rachel or Nicole's office right now, just waiting to be presented. But because there's quote unquote burdensome language, because there's give and take. There was some things we were trying to make more flexible, like lot sizes and density. But then there was some take side of it where it's like, but we want a little more restriction on other things. We can't do anything. So our position for Senate Bill 180 from the start has been that it's, and I said this at our delegation meeting, 95% of that's a good bill. We went into the sponsoring senator's office during session last year, and what part of our conversation was to thank him for this bill. It was a thoughtful bill, and that sponsoring senator, Senator DeSeglia out of Pinellas County, removed this bad language. Like unilaterally, voluntarily removed it himself on the floor of the Senate and passed a clean bill. The questionable language, Section 18 and 28, which has to do with burdensome and ability to control development, was reinserted at the House level after the Senate passed it unanimously, like 48 hours for the end of normal session, which then got extended. So our position has been, you just need to clarify, because they keep saying, everyone up in Tallahassee keeps saying in their Tiger Bay meetings and in their town halls that it's being misinterpreted, that the agencies are not doing what they intended it to do, that it's supposed to be to allow people to rebuild homes after storms, and it's supposed to be to help people because there were some bad actor municipalities that weren't letting people build or jacking up permitting fees or impact fees associated with it. Well, if it's true that what you're saying is it's being misinterpreted by the unelected agency heads, then that's a pretty easy fix. And I proposed it to them. There's actually a section earlier on in that bill that more or less informally defines property. And I pointed out the exact line to a number of people up there. I said, just take that and make it a defined term for all definitions of property, and you'll effectively fix a majority of the bill, at least the biggest issues of the bill. And it would allow, that one little change would allow us to put our wetland buffers back, remove 2128, and move forward with our impact fees. Let's hope they do that. I think there's a lot of people just saying, abolish all of Senate Bill 180, rescind it. Like that's short-sighted, because you don't want to throw out all the good with the bad. There's a much easier fix. Every year they run glitch bills on whatever they didn't do properly or wasn't interpreted properly in the previous year. I mean, Live Local is on its like fourth year of glitch bills.
So I want to take just a step back. So, and I appreciate what you said. So if, just to somebody who's listening and maybe hearing SB 180, they've heard it tossed around a couple times. If I'm a citizen and I, voted for change this last election, why is this particular bill such a big issue for me?
The best government's always the government closest to the people. That's the old adage, and it holds true today as much, if not more so, than it ever did. Local government has a right in the state of Florida to control its own growth. There's growth management laws that allow local government to determine how best to grow or not to grow their own communities. And local citizens get to vote on their commissioners or their city council or whoever it is that will enact that growth management in the way they want to do it. Senate Bill 180 effectively removes that local right. It basically says until October 2027, with triggers that could extend it even further.
Another hurricane.
In theory, indefinitely. It says that your local government cannot, under any circumstance, pass any growth management laws that are deemed, quote unquote, yet not defined, more burdensome or restrictive than what was in your comp plan in August 2024. That has literally led to lawsuits and arguments about roosters in people's backyards. There's a community right now that was trying to put a minimum distance between pickleball courts and residences because of how loud they are. They're being sued because it would be a further distance than it used to be, and it's more burdensome to build the pickleball courts further away.
So this goes beyond wetland buffers.
It has been weaponized to anything and everything you can possibly imagine at this point in time, yes.
So what I love about this conversation is that as a board, and it's in our 2026 legislative priorities, we're talking about policies that we're advocating for, or changes or support, not only projects. The other policy that we're advocating support of, you mentioned it, was Commissioner Ballard really leading the charge on the local library bill. Could you talk a little bit about what that bill is and why we're advocating for it?
Sure. That one kind of got ahead of us, in part because of the meetings we had 3 weeks ago. I even thanked them at our delegation meeting. I was shocked how fast they acted on it. Up in Tallahassee, senators can run as many bills they want. House can only run 7 bills. But then you also have this pocket of local bills that if the delegation, and in our case we have 5, it's anyone who represents any part of a community. So we have 2 senators and 3 House reps as part of our delegation. If they vote to run a local bill, it goes through all the committees and everything the same. And we had proposed, or Commissioner Ballard had proposed, a modification to our library advisory board. And our delegation jumped on it, had it fully drafted and ready to go, and voted on it at the delegation meeting. So they'll be running that local bill this year. And what that is back in 1970? 72? Yeah, it was early 70s. Somehow or another, there was an independent state law passed just for the Manatee County Free Library Act that explicitly stated the exact makeup, composition, and size of our advisory board. And so Commissioner Ballard, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, tried to modify our advisory board because it's only 5 people. And it has to do with you have a Master's of Science in Library Studies or whatever. It had nothing to do with location. And back in the 70s, we didn't have a Lakewood Ranch. Parish wasn't really incorporated. So she just wanted to expand it. She wanted to go from 9 to, I think at that point in time was 14 or some larger number, and make it so that someone from each district's in there, and someone from Lakewood Ranch, someone from the island. We were prohibited from doing so because of state law. And this goes back to the basic concept of home rule. Advisory boards are supposed to advise your Board of County Commissioners. A Board of County Commissioners elected by the citizens should be able to determine who their advisors are, but we were being restricted based upon an antiquated and massively outdated 50-plus year law. So we're just moving to eliminate that and strike it from state law. It affects no other county or municipality other than Manatee County. So we're pretty confident that's just most local bills get through without a problem. So, and once that's removed this session, then Commissioner Ballard and the board will be able to then propose a restructuring of our advisory board and seat those members to help our growing library system.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, just in this realm of government relations, we have so many things that, that we hear from citizens wanting to affect change. How do you boil it down to get to, I'm holding this document in my hand now, this, list of things that we said we are choosing as our priorities? Why? How do we even get here? Help me sort of articulate the process, because it's been a long time coming with this road to get to this specific list.
It is. It's a lot, because you start with look, in a perfect world, there's thousands of roads we want to fix and we want money for. And there's lots of organizations and other things that we can do, and parks and boat ramps and bridges that need. there's an endless list that could be in there. So from appropriation side, it's twofold. One is you talk to your delegation, you start filling out what the hot buttons are going to be. Is it going to be stormwater? Is it going to be infrastructure? You tailor it a little. You look back on what's been put in previously. Like we've had pretty good success with trails, for instance. So we're not running that at the state level, but we do have trails in our federal appropriations because we've had good success on it. And we know Representative Buchanan's been good with it. And at the state level, Representative Robinson's been good with it. So it's just a matter of figuring out where you have a higher likelihood of getting the funding. Because at the end of the day, a dollar's a dollar. And if we can get our fair share to move things along for the county, then that's how we'll do it. As for the policies, that's a little newer for Manatee County. We traditionally focused way heavier on the appropriation side up till last year, maybe year before a little bit. We never talked about the policy issues. And so that's a newer thing. So that's a little bit more organic. They've changed year by year. What really spurred that on was a few years ago, and not to keep pointing out Commissioner Ballard for her, but a few years ago, Commissioner Ballard brought up a how do I word this? A problem with the calculation on how foster care funds come out. And that was really the first time we really had a meaningful conversation about priorities in terms of policy. And so we put that on there, and we had a long conversation with, at that time, Senate President Wilton Simpson. And that really got us a lot of attention, and it spurred things on up at the Tallahassee level. It's still being worked on, but it's being worked on earnest. That's where we started realizing, hey, our advocacy on the policy side is as important as our advocacy on the appropriation side. So we've since expanded it. Again, I'm on all but one of the policy boards for Florida Association of County. I'm chairing one of them. Commissioner Sadiq's on, I think, 4 of them. So we're very involved statewide on policies. So a few of these that you see in our handouts, our leave behinds, as we call them for Tallahassee, are more specific to Manatee County or things that are really important to Manatee. But we will have a live document up online that has a much longer list of priorities, just so we can direct people in Tallahassee to say, hey, if you're talking about whether or not to charge a fee for electrical vehicles, hey, take a look at our list over here, just if you need one more data point of saying Manatee County supports this.
Yeah. So we've had the intention of thinking through dozens of issues and capturing that and socializing it with the board. Our legislative affairs team has met with every head of department, county administration, took those findings to the board members. Each board member got to weigh in. And so all of this has distilled, and we just voted on this on October 21st.
Correct. And it's a living, breathing thing. I mean, the day after this session ends, we'll be up on the dais talking about whatever, and things will start coming up through conversation that people like yourself and Brent and the rest of your team will be jotting down, saying, hey, maybe this is something we need to keep an eye on. Let's talk to Senator Boyd, Representative Robinson. Let's see if there's something going on up in Tallahassee. Well, Senator Robinson will be terming out after this session, or Representative Robinson. So maybe we should talk to Connerly or Owen, but start getting a feel for, because usually at the end of one session, you already kind of start knowing what's going to be coming up the following session. I've already been talking to people about bills I'd like to see, and they've told me it's not going to be on 26.
It could be 27.
Yeah.
Yes, because either it conflicts with something else, or because somebody's terming out and they're waiting for that person to leave. So they're already pre-thinking it, and then you can start formulating this based on their priorities the following year with new leadership in this case.
So where do we go from here? We're now, November 2025, gearing up for session in 2026. What's happening between now and beginning of session?
Now's where it starts getting interesting, because there's 4 weeks of committee weeks left. You're starting to see bills come out a little bit faster now. So now there's things to actually read and pay attention to and talk to people about. After this week, there's 3 more, one later in November, just prior to Thanksgiving, and then 2 in December. Then they take Christmas or holidays off. And like I said, I believe it's January 13th. They go back, and then they're straight through 60 days to try to do everything. The only thing the state has to do by law, by Constitution, is pass a balanced budget. They don't have to pass any of these bills at all. And I wouldn't cry. but they have to pass a balanced
Right.
budget. So these next 2 months, call it, is when they're everyone up in Tallahassee is starting to hit their committee weeks. All these bills that are getting filed, they're starting to get assigned to their various committees, starting to go through that process. The more they can get through now, the less they have to deal with during session. The tax bills are the ones you're going to see pushed through the hardest, I believe, because the speaker had said his intention was to have the final bills ready to go for vote the first week of session, meaning they would have to go through all 3 of their committee stops during committee weeks,
Right.
in order to be able to have that teed up for the first House floor session.
And most of the feedback we were getting in those meetings was that, property taxes was going to be the issue this year. This was the main thing, right?
I would have to assume so, because it's getting the most attention and the most, there's so many bills filed already for it. There's more bills filed for taxes than almost everything else combined. So it's certainly going to be the big. I mean, Senate Bill 180 is going to be something because people are focused on it. Live Local is always something because while I fully support Live Local and the various versions they've gone through, it hasn't fully fixed things yet. There's still some glitches that need to properly be done until people start using it better. So that's always going to be on there. But yes, I think taxes are certainly going to be the biggest issue this year.
That's good. So I'll ask you this. Now that we've gotten to this point where we're focused, we have a game plan, we have specific asks, what do you hope for the 2026 legislative priorities?
6 asks, 6 yeses.
Yes, it would be nice to put in our appropriations this year and get them through. Like I tell people, these aren't appropriations for me. This isn't an appropriation to pay off my mortgage. This is an appropriation for a Veteran Connect Park nowhere near my house. This is a proposal for a pier nowhere near my house. These are appropriations that we believe, and through public comment sessions and board discussion comments, are in the best interest of improving the quality of life for the citizens of Manatee County by requesting some of our money. But let's not forget, people always act like these appropriations are the state giving us money. The state doesn't have any money. The state got all its money from the stuff that you spent here. This is your sales tax that got spent at the mom and pop store down the road from your house in Manatee County. That 6 cents of that got sent back up to Tallahassee, and now they're holding it. It's a disproportionate share of the gas taxes that you spent at the Wawa down the road from your house in Manatee County. Like, that money went to Tallahassee, and now we're saying, can we just have some small fraction of it back, which isn't even all going to come back in its entirety, because it's end up funneling to other places. So, it'll be nice to be able to get some of our money back for the sake of the taxpayers and citizens of Manatee County to start improving their lives, so having to use their money again to build the things that they already paid money for. So that'll be nice. And from the priority standpoint, I mean, Senate Bill 180 is critically important to Manatee County. I do think there's a simple fix if somebody wants to make the fix. So that'll be a big focus for us. The property tax one, I'm going to focus on it because I'm on the select property tax board for FAC, and it's probably the most important thing, but we can't do anything about it. So I'm not going to stress over it until I know what I'm stressing over. Like, it's right now, we're throwing punches in the dark until we know what we're swinging at. So until we have a better handle on what the proposal is going to be on the ballot, and then have Sheila and our finance team be able to say, this is the implication of that. Right now, it's just, why stress over something until you know what you're stressing over? So that one is just more watching.
Agreed. So if citizens want to get in touch with you, you and Commissioner Bearden are our at-large commissioners, so you serve the entire county. How can they get in touch with you? What would you tell them to direct their comments if they have ideas or suggestions or opinions they want you to hear?
Sure. Well, I think I said it on the last podcast, and I posted it, but I have a website now that's just, I got to pass through it, a link tree. It's just georgekruse.com, GeorgeKruse.com. That has direct links to my county cell phone number, my county email address, my county Facebook page, my Substack, you name it. Any way you could possibly ever want to get in touch with me is right on that one website. So that's the easiest way to go. The best way, honestly, is email, because I have an amazing aide who answers emails before I even realized I was getting emails. So if you want a really, really fast answer,
Shout out to Dana.
Shoot me an email. But that said, I carry my phone everywhere and reply to emails a lot. So you could text me on my county phone if you want, but honestly, email's the best way, because myself and Dana will both see that email, and somebody's going to get back to you probably faster than you thought.
And you have a town hall coming up, too.
I do. Wednesday, November 12th at 6 p.m. at the Lakewood Ranch Library. I'll be having a town hall. Just Q&A on anything. We could talk about what's going on in Manatee County. We could talk about what we think's going to happen in Tallahassee. We could talk about my thoughts on property taxes, development. We could talk about Senate Bill 180. Whatever it is you want to talk about, it's completely open-ended. I know there's another town hall going on simultaneously Wednesday, November 12th. Also, I believe at 6 p.m. at Rocky Bluff Library for Commissioner Feltz. So, you can decide which one you want to go to.
And you mentioned earlier Manatee County Day, so we do want to put a plug in on Manatee County Day. Would you like to tell folks about Manatee County Day?
This is something I've been asking for years. A lot of other counties do this. And what it is counties will have a day, in some cases, larger counties, a couple of days, that really showcase the entirety of their county, both their business side, their government side, their nonprofit side, to everybody in Tallahassee. So Tampa will go up and they'll bring like their Gasparilla Pirates, and Miami will go up and make paella and hand out Cuban sandwiches. It really gives an opportunity to show what your county's about. We can go up there every year, sometimes a couple of times, and talk about our needs, but it doesn't really explain our community. And the people up in Hillsborough, Pinellas, Sarasota, those representative senators have been to Manatee County. They understand what we're all about. The representative from Pensacola and Key West,
no idea,
and Brevard may not have ever been here before.
Right.
So you got to bring Manatee to them, and we've never done it before. And the advantage is, during Manatee Days, we're going to have meetings set up for a couple of days. We're going to have a delegation event. We're going to have an all-day where we've got effectively an expo set up with businesses coming up and Chamber of Commerce coming up and nonprofits coming up, so that these reps and senators and their aides can all come and learn all things about Manatee County in an organic way where they're seeing all aspects of it. And it also allows us to take someone from the private sector, like John Horn, walking into a meeting with Jackie Disleski from the Chamber, walking in with Commissioner Sadiq from the Board of County Commissioners, walking in with Chad Show from the school, all at the same time, and talking about how everything is intertwined and works together to really push our appropriations and our policy initiatives, which are at the benefit of the taxpayers, along with our small businesses and our nonprofits and our school boards and our municipalities. So it's a great opportunity. This is our first year, so it's kind of somewhat of a test, but I believe Stephanie and your team have really gotten it to a point where it's not really a test case. It's full on.
It's a pilot. It's a pilot. We'll see if I'm still here to be able to do it again next year.
We'll see. But we have the Senate. We have the Senate president coming in after this year, so this is a good year of doing this pilot, getting everything down, fine-tuning it so that the 2 years where we have the Senate president from our area, where there's going to be a spotlight on Manatee County, which inevitably happens when you have people in leadership, that then we're raring to go. And our years 2 and year 3 of Manatee Days are going to be even better than what I already know is going to be a great year 1.
Yeah, and when is Manatee County Days?
It is February 4th and 5th, and you are very welcome to attend. We'll put the link in our podcast description so you can find out more. There is opportunities to have a table if you want your business to come up and showcase. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to myself, Brent Anderson, on our team, and we'd be happy to answer those questions.
Thanks once again, Commissioner Kruse, for being here. Your insights are always very refreshing. It's good to see what's going on behind the board and behind some of the decisions that you make from the dais. So thanks again for being here. And Stephanie?
I think so too. And it's nice to kind of just talk about these things in plain language, because sometimes some of these things are really hard to unpack and get the details of what do we mean by a bridge replacement? What do we mean by the Veterans Resource Hub and Park? What exactly are these things? And I think you explain it in a really easy to understand language.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always happy to come and talk about anything. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts at the county level, a lot of moving parts during session at the state level. I'm always happy to talk to both of you in this setting or talk to any citizen. That's why I try to have these town halls. That's why I try to answer the emails. That's why I'm active on social media. So, I try to keep people informed this session after we had a couple of last-minute things last session, like the Ag Enclaves and the Senate Bill 180. I'm going to try to be a little bit more proactive in keeping people up to date instead of just handling it myself every time. So, if you see a bill that you question how that benefits Manatee County, reach out to me. If you have a question about something that we should be making a priority that maybe we haven't, reach out to me. Again, I'm always available to discuss it. I love talking about the stuff that happens in Tallahassee. So, we're here to represent you when we go to Tallahassee or down the road into Washington, D.C. So, the more we know about what you want, the more we can advocate on your behalf.
So stay tuned for the federal breakdown coming soon. And thank you again, Chair. I really appreciate the time. And I know I speak for everyone, says this was very, very educational. So thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, it's been the 21st episode of Chambers, Changes, and Conversations from the county seat, and on behalf of the men and women and commissioners doing work behind the scenes or from the dais for you, I'm Casey Zempel.
I'm Stephanie Garrison.
And I'm George Kruse.
Make it a great day to live, work, and play in
Manatee County.
The opinions expressed by guests of Chambers, Changes, and Conversations do not necessarily reflect those of Manatee County government or its employees.